Welcome back to Soulful Prosperity. Today, we're diving deep into business and life with the one and only Chris Abazis, better known as your favorite coach, Chris. As a seasoned business coach, speaker, founder of Dream Key Consulting, and co-founder of Sky Limitless Media, Chris has made it his mission to help entrepreneurs and leaders unlock their full potential. Through his 3L's approach, language, leadership, and leverage, he has guided countless real estate professionals and business owners to build thriving, meaningful businesses while living life to the fullest. With 5 kids and a blended family in South Florida, Chris balances his professional work with his passions. When he's not coaching, you'll find him hosting local Unlocked, officiating weddings, DJing, emceeing events, producing music, and more. But Chris brings authenticity and fun into everything he does. And today we'll be digging deep into his most important message, authenticity matters, and we'll explore how creating meaningful experiences, leveraging both your business and life, and leading through service are the real keys to lasting success and fulfillment. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this guy's been my friend for many years at this point, and I am looking forward to getting to know him even better. So let's welcome Chris.
Wow, I'm exhausted after hearing you read all those things that I do, man.
I love doing intros now, so I get into it, and I leverage AI, so it does such a beautiful job, and I believe guests deserve a proper intro, and we forget. So I try to make sure in my intro, like to when we gather the survey info, rather, to get in there what's important in case you don't get it out.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a weird thing too when people ask you for that. When I started speaking, they're like, "Oh, we need this intro," and then when you hear everybody introducing, they read these intros, and I'm like, "It always sounds so silly." I'm like, "I don't need an intro, just because sometimes you just have an intro slide because people want to know, hey, who is this guy? Who is this person?" It's like,
but I think I don't want to ask you for an intro. That's why I like to ask for the info, and then you write an intro because
that's cool.
It's more fun.
I dig it. I'm like, hey man, it sounded good.
Less awkward.
I like it. It sounded really good. Awesome.
Good. Cool. All right. So you know the deal. The show is Soulful Prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear your story. You can start from wherever you want, whatever you think is important and relevant to get over. Obviously, we actually have very similar focus in our business and in our world. And, we always end up together at some point or another because we think very much alike. So I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective of Soulful Prosperity.
Yeah, I think we have super similar journeys. And I made it through high school, went into college, kind of, just was interested in things like psychology and English. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. Who knows, right? And at some point in college, I got put in academic probation because if I didn't like a class, I didn't go to it. But I was like an intro class major. I like political science and philosophy and satire and film and media. And what do I do with all these things, right? So I had to move from Manhattan to Queens because they shut down our student housing. And that's when I got into real estate. Around 9/11 happened. I got into real estate around then. Real estate sales, I figured on academic probation, I might as well get a real estate license. And I was interested in it as an investment perspective. I never fancied myself a salesperson, but got my real estate license, figured I'd do that until I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then I was actually good at it. I was a rookie salesperson of the year. By my third year, was my first 6-figure year. I guess I was 23 years old, 24. I got married. I was buying my first house, and I had my friends that were graduating with master's degrees in business with big student loans, not being able to find jobs. So there's something to that, right? They said, I guess this is what I'm doing. Yeah. And it was that third year, I was always asked by my manager to, like, if I wanted to teach new agents, if I wanted to help new agents and stuff. And I was always like, oh no, they don't want to learn from me. What do they want to know from me? So it's kind of like, I guess, people seeing something in me early on. Then fast forward to 2007, I was asked to launch a new company as a team leader and a CEO. And it sounded like I was turning into a company guy. And I guess I was 27 years old. They said, why would somebody want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. So I stayed in sales, and then opportunity presented itself again around 2010, and I took it. And that was kind of like my first step into the leadership journey. I had already been kind of coaching and teaching new agents in the real estate business. And now I was 29, launching a company in a down market. So anybody in the real estate business, I don't know if you remember what happened in 2009, 2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like everyone was getting out of the business. And then they were, here was this, they put this 29-year-old kid and they said, hey, here's a 6,000 square foot office, fill it. And I was like, man, this is a big undertaking, but we did well. I did that for quite a few years. And, in 6 years of doing that, I've recruited, trained, and coached over 1,000 agents. I really fell in love with people development, the people development aspect of it. And people were asking me to speak places and do things, and I was having to say no. And I had a coach at the time, and you can probably identify with this, where he's like, Chris, what are you saying no to what are you saying yes to that's making you say no to things you really want to do, that you're really good at? And I realized it was kind of running offices and doing that. I had ownership in 3 different offices. I was kind of stuck under this one roof. So I decided to start Dream Key Consulting while I was still doing that. And I always knew that was my exit strategy. And that's what I did. I started working with small business owners, not just real estate, and kind of helping people. And it's interesting because I thought about these 3 levels, like how you talk to people, language, how you communicate means world of difference. And that's true in sales or leadership in life. And language, leadership, how you lead people, how you show up for yourself, self-leadership, and leverage, kind of when you're doing everything you can, get some systems, tools, and people to do it for you. And I have a very low economic drive. I am super motivated by free time. So it's like I've gone up and down in this,
It took a long time, but
yeah. And we come from a world where it's like, build it bigger. You have a social responsibility, build huge. And I'm like, man, I don't need to make $1 million a year. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive to say, because everyone, you come from a place like, do this and do that and build it big. And you're right, the millionaire real estate agent and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm kind of okay just chilling. I'm kind of okay just chilling and helping other people create opportunities and doing what I love on a daily basis and not having to worry about it. So I've gone from having big staffs to no staff to doing everything myself. So kind of back and forth with this leverage world, right? So I'm like, really, like, I know even you have, I know you're a big proponent of leverage too. Mm-hmm. And that comes with its challenges. But I'm just kind of in and out of this thing, and I'm stuck. People say, stay focused on one thing, but I like to do a lot of different things. I like to, people are like, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing this for? And I'm like, well, I enjoy these people, or I enjoy doing this thing. And, it's a funny thing here. Like I was DJing the other day, and somebody was like, I told them what I do, and they're like, oh, wow. They're like, you would never think that you would also do this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I just got off a plane and now I'm here just kind of in my hometown hanging out, and it's a good time. So I like doing things I want to do.
I wonder, because I don't know what you study, but really what you're talking about is there's a huge difference between the masculine energy of like the millionaire real estate agent and the hustle and the grind and like you have to work hard. I actually have been given one of my coaches, Coach Pipes. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah, Bill Pipes, sure.
Yeah, so he's gotten so far into the masculine world, and I keep trying to bring him back because he's one of the ones that helped me integrate my spirituality into my business. And I love you, Pipes. That is not like picking on you if you see this, but so now it's like you have really stepped into that feminine energy world and where it's more about creativity and flow and freedom and, joy and ease instead of that like stress and flow. But I truly believe the $1 million will still, it's going to come, right? If you want it in your world, right? So you can still, but that was one of my biggest, like, oh, I don't have to but I think I always felt that way, but I was in such like survival mode. Like, I was a single mom, 2 kids, like just, it had to happen. But I think that's why I started leveraging into leadership in different areas, because I did realize like, I don't want to be, I stopped showing, buyers things on nights and weekends like 3 years into my career. I went to some seminar and I didn't suffer from it. My business grew from it. So I think I always kind of like wanted that, but still was in that hustle and grind. So I love that you're in that space.
That's interesting, that energy distinction. I probably always kind of led with this feminine energy. I was raised by a single mom. I had a sister. My friends were girls in high school, and I was kind of always that guy. And now it's like all my dogs are girls. It's just and I remember, I think I was at Unleash Your Power Within, and Tony Robbins kind of talks about that.
He leverages. You know what? Tony Robbins wakes up at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Does he?
I did a whole bunch of research for one of my clients because he's so in the hustle grind mode, and I'm trying to get him into trust and faith and flow as well. Like I think it's like the yin and the yang. Like you want to kind of have both.
A little bit of both, sure.
So I did the research of all the people. You know, he's like into Alex Hormozi, Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins wakes up between like 9 and 10, and then he does his priming and he does his whole routine and his cold plunge.
I would imagine he's up late then.
I think he might have made the shift, which happens if you're smart and realize what you can. And I think you'll agree with this, Chris. You'll notice with business owners and entrepreneurs, they go into business because they want the freedom, and then they build themselves this golden cage. They literally are trapped. So, but when you have children, you start to realize, and I bet you this was an influence on you, that, you know, and I'll tell the quick story. When I think it was my youngest daughter. Yeah. When she was about to go to kindergarten, it all of a sudden became half day kindergarten instead of full day kindergarten. And I'm like, what? And I didn't want to have to send her to preschool because she was in preschool since like I was still nursing her, you know, in daycare, preschool stuff. Right. So I didn't want her. I wanted her to, like, if it was half day, it's a half day. And then I'm going to spend the day with her. So I had to work my business so efficiently that I was done. That was the first year I broke $300,000.
That's great.
So that energy of, like, you know, knowing, like, being aligned with your values, being aligned with most important to you. And look, then if you make the $1 million, that's great. But listen, I've had it blow up because I was not doing it with what makes me feel good, what makes me feel happy. The fact that you love DJing and you're doing that, that's
I just love music. You know, it's it's one of those things. And I love music. And then we have the video production company that me and John started years ago. And these are all fun things to do. And it's there's actually I don't know if you heard Emil Wapnick. She did a TED talk about being a multi-potentialite. And I thought that was kind of a cool term, and saying we come from a world where people they tell you to focus, and being the jack of all trades and the master of none is not a good thing, and all these things. But what if you actually have the capacity to be good at a lot of things?
Look at Leonardo.
Enjoy them.
Da Vinci. Look at Da Vinci. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
You have to read that book. There's a book, like Something Be Like Da Vinci. Holy, for someone like you that has all, he just, like, he was interested in everything. And that's curiosity, like to live in curiosity and to live in, like, awe. Like, I love it.
Always finding out new stuff. You don't know what you don't know. That's my favorite sector of knowledge to live in. The stuff that I don't know to kind of learn about it. And it's just, you know, to be able to set up your world where you can, because a lot of things are important to you, you know, not just business. And sure, $1 million will come. I just think that's not what drives me. It's just, I know that some people, it's what drives them. They're very super economically driven. And I just have a low economic drive. Huh?
It could just be like, I'll never forget when the pandemic hit. You know, my husband was an attorney. I'm in real estate. Law got hit harder than real estate and hasn't quite come back, especially in New York, because bail reform hit at the same time. And, like, basically you can steal and you don't need an attorney to get you out of jail now. There's no, like, in New York, it's crazy.
Oh, wow. That's weird. So he's a defense attorney. So he does criminal defense. He
does. Yeah. So
I have a client that's a personal injury attorney. That's interesting to hear.
He does that too. He does personal injury, you know, whatever, but a few things. But regardless, it was all steal. You can steal in New York. That's why they're really struggling here. And like you get out of jail the same, like 10 minutes later. You still have to go to court and, you know, all this, but, you know, the pendulum always swings all the way. It'll swing back and come to, but the bottom line is, I remember, and not for nothing, in June of 2022, my investment with my business partner gone, and my $450,000 a year income grinding halt. Not only that, but my entire persona. I mean, you know, I was Jen Marr, this, you know, real estate, blah, blah, blah. That was like,
sure.
And I lost it all. And so.
Which business was that? The brokerage?
I'm sorry?
Which business was that? That's
Philip Real Estate.
the brokerage.
Yeah. Lost it all, right?
Hmm.
I'm not blaming anyone
Then it
on,
makes you reinvent everything, right? So
I had to, but I had already been doing the work, the work
yeah,
behind the scene of identifying who am I? What makes me happy? What do I want? What do I, and doing that work. So I was able to pivot on a dime. And I'm not even going to say it's been easy, but I've gotten out of the space of, because I had no capital to start my business, like none. Like I was the other, in the other direction. And I was able to eliminate the question mark around money, which makes me a tremendous coach, because that's a big factor in being a business owner and entrepreneur, because you don't want to then start making all your decisions based out of fear and
yeah.
scarcity.
That's the worst. I always, as a coach, I didn't want to work with coaches. And I said, if everyone's coaching coaches, no one's doing the work. So but I
agree with that.
Some people came across my path that like I have a guy he's a playwright and he wants to be a creative coach, and I'm helping him with the business side of it. And then I had a life coach that she wasn't so great with business, and so there's, on a case-by-case basis, I take them. And the interesting thing is, one of the things that I always tell them is, man, it's when you're worried about money, you're going to say yes to things you shouldn't say yes to. You're going to maybe potentially work with people that you shouldn't. And, I want to get to that point. Yeah. And that was hard for me as a new person. I mean, I worked with a lot of people that I didn't take money from to help them get going, so and that's one of the things I've had coaches that tell me. I had one coach tell me, he's like, stop, Chris, stop working with broke people. Cause I love new business owners. I'm starting a new business. I had a health and wellness guy, and I'm like, hey, I'll work with you until you get it going. Right. Or take an equity position in their company, then, something like that. But I had a coach that tell me, Chris, stop working with broke people. He's like, work with wealthy people and then donate your time to broke people instead of working with broke people to kind of.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So he's like, make the money. He's like, work with wealthy people, take their money, then go create a nonprofit for new business owners where you can donate your services. And I was like, I never thought that way. Right. So it's an interesting thing to kind of can take that off the table. And that's always one of the questions, right? If money wasn't an issue, what would you do every day with your time? And
we're doing it.
That's what would you do? What would you do with your time? I have a client that's a restaurant owner, and she's really struggling with staff and management and stuff. So much so that I was there helping her yesterday. So I'm helping her with marketing and consulting. We're creating lead magnets for her and stuff like that, a CRM, email, and now, like, I'm helping her with some leadership stuff. She's got no leadership experience, and I had to ask her. I said, Kim, if you can get everything off your plate that you hate, and you could just, what would your job be every day? And she's like, oh man, she's like, well, I wouldn't want to do the accounting. I wouldn't. I'm like, no, not the stuff you wouldn't want to do. What would you want to do? Let's make it, well, I want to deal with customers and people and the staff. And I'm like, but she really wants to kind of just be that customer service manager, that staff manager, without doing any of the other stuff. So it's like, okay, well, we got to look to get those things off your plate. But entrepreneurs don't slow down. They don't slow down and stop and take a look to figure out to hire the right people. So, and man, we have a training that we know what works. We know these models and systems and tools that we've got in place. But man, these other industries, like she's a bartender that bought a restaurant from the previous owners. Yeah. It's got this thing now, and all of a sudden, and things that might come easy to us or we think is natural, it's just to other people. Having these conversations, having difficult conversations with people. And I'm still teaching everybody fierce conversations. And funny thing, right after you today, Antoinette Perez reached out to me. I don't know if you remember her. She's like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. She's like, I don't know if you ever, she was a fierce conversations facilitator for years. If you ever took that, that's a good one.
Well, it's been, honestly, I wrote a blog a few weeks ago, how I think I called it difficult conversations, the lack of either having them or not doing them well really was the cusp of almost every major failure or mistake. Now, I don't have any regrets. I've learned so much. I learn from my stuff,
Yeah, don't we all?
But I can see that so clearly now. And it's one of the things I really try to, lead with in my coaching, but also with my family, and just transparency and over communicating, eye contact, and like take the time to, like, 2-minute conversation here where I need us to connect. Mm-hmm. And that was, I'm 50 something, and I really didn't get that till a few years ago. That was the demise of my business. I'm on divorce number 2. And it really was, it all boils down
Of
to
course, I
that.
do too.
And
Well, will you get married again? That's a question. Will you get married again?
you know what? I'm open to whatever the universe has in store for me.
That's right.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not like, I'm done with like labeling and judging.
Yeah,
I just want to be in the flow. I want to be impeccable, live in integrity, help as many people as I can. And I trust the universe to make me whole financially
that's right.
while I'm doing that. That's the space that I live in now. And it's
Yeah,
such a good place to be.
yeah, it doesn't make it makes it, you sleep well at night. It's really easy to wake up in the morning, and so that's a good place to be. It's I that's I mean it's I love what you're doing. It's just kind of uh these things that we discover later on in life. It's like the things that you almost want to shake your kids and get it into more, just the youth in general, just things that people worrying about, things that don't matter, or just these small little life lessons that we didn't get until later on. Like, we're just always one conversation away from changing the trajectory of our lives or our
Yeah.
states.
But
And
by living
we don't
it,
learn.
by example and being loud and proud about it, that's where we can impact that change. Like
It,
I've learned with my
do,
daughters, it's not about telling them, it's about leading.
yeah, helping them self-discover. I think the greatest gift we can give our kids is not to tell them what to do, but to teach them to think on their own. And
Yeah.
it's sometimes I annoy my kids because I ask them so many questions to kind of help them get this. And they'll ask me a question. I'll just ask them questions to help them reason and
Yes.
discover things for themselves. Like, even like, you've got like these elections coming and all this political climate that we're in. And I know nothing about politics, and the kids learn more from school and their surroundings, and just kind of asking them questions to help them self-discover things around and think for themselves. I think that's so important. And rarely do people think for themselves these days. And we've got this social media, right, where everyone's cramming 15-second messages into people's brains. You're at the
Mhm.
mercy. I mean, I watch these kids now, they're just scrolling through their TikTok feeds, and you're at the
Yes.
mercy of what they're determining to pop up in your thing, just cramming it into your brain. Bing, bing, bing. And if you
Yeah.
can't slow down to think for yourself, decide
Yeah.
what
No,
you want for your life.
and then explaining that even for like, I have one daughter who's extremely liberal and extremely, and I'm like, okay, but that like judgment, harshness, extremism is just as bad. I
Yeah.
understand that you think you're on the right side, but it's also subject to your perspective, who you are, where you
Yeah.
grew up, who raised you, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, if we just all try to find, more
Yeah.
commonality and
Mhm.
just real connections and real, so you said something before, which is interesting to me as well. Um how much do you notice, and this, because I have a restaurant and I'm working with a hospitality group,
Oh, I love it.
and they're suffering the most with the workforce issues, and my whole stance is like, I'm sorry, but it's a leadership issue.
Yes.
You haven't shifted. The world has changed. You can't open a newspaper, a magazine, no matter what kind it is, without reading about some kind of side hustle. Everybody has, in through the pandemic, this entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial
Mhm.
opportunity, because everybody was like, shit,
What am I
now
doing? Let me start that business I always wanted to
let me
start.
do, and let me
Yeah,
make money with what makes me happy.
sure.
People got a taste of that. And so now they don't want to come to work and help you make money doing what makes you happy or helps you. So number one, they're not like tying they don't even know what's important to these employees. They're not offering them leadership opportunities. They're not offering them growth opportunities. They're not offering them an
Mm,
outlet for their entrepreneurial spirit. If you tap into all that without the fear of like, oh, I'm going to train them, they're going to leave me. Listen, like, if you look at the best chefs in the world, or the best maitre d's in the world, or the best restaurateurs,
mm,
all of them have some chef or some restaurateur that mentored them. And
yeah.
I don't know, you don't know who Peter Kelly is, but he's one of the best chefs in New York State, and he only hires inner city challenged people.
Mm,
So he's been,
that's great.
and make sure that they're all leaving him. His goal is that they're all
Yeah,
leaving him to do something amazing and great. And he's the most successful chef there is. So it's like
great.
that leadership has to switch. Like, you can't just expect people to come in and feel excited, you know? And if
Yeah.
you're only interviewing them based on, can you carry a tray or not carry a tray, because you're so desperate and so afraid, you don't have the like, it's all coming from fear and scarcity.
how exciting it is to be in front of somebody that's saying, I mean, when I used to interview people and say, I want to be you one day, right? So like when I had my real estate office, it's like, great. If somebody wanted to be me, man, I can open up another one and partner with you, right? So, and we see that with a restaurant. I mean, there's a restaurant down here that was Okeechobee Steakhouse, and they opened up another steakhouse, and the owners of that one are like, their executive team, their managers and chefs and stuff. So they partner together. And I think that sometimes people really have this small-minded, this small-minded thing. What if a salesperson gets really good? If you see a salesperson that's got leadership capability, man, if you could develop leaders and stay in front of them and just kind of create bigger opportunities for them, that's a great place to be. And a lot of people,
and then they're invested, they have ownership, they have agency, they're excited, they're motivated. They're all those problems, like, because I hear all the time now, like, nobody has pride in their work anymore. No, they don't have pride in the work that you're shoving down their throat, because you have to get there. Like, what are your values? Have you communicated the values? Have you communicated where and why, what your vision is, what happens when we go to this restaurant, right? So it's
it's one of my first clients. Like it's a big consulting client, was these three doctors that they always wanted to be in a restaurant business. And they were, they're plastic surgeons, young guys. They had families in the restaurant business, like these Greek and Italian guys. They're like, we want a restaurant business. So they asked me to help them kind of put the business together. And we built a model where we found a great head chef. We recruited a great head chef, through the methods of hiring talent that we utilize. And we got a great head chef that wanted an opportunity, and a great GM that wanted an opportunity. Gave them 15% of the company after the first 6 months of launching this thing. So now they've got a GM that owns 15%, a chef that owns 15%, and they even give the lady that decorated the place 1%, something ownership like that. So these guys now have a successful restaurant. They put the money in, they followed the process, they've hired. So you've got a GM and a head chef now, takes care of front and back of house, and they've got this really great restaurant that they love, and they contribute creatively. So they kind of started off as a board of directors, never got their hands dirty, never never had to manage a restaurant or run it. And you need the money to do that, but also you need to have the trust to do that. So for them to trust, like, say, hey, follow this process. Here's what we can do to find and recruit people. And we did it. And they were like, they found the right people, and they're still going. And that's a cool thing. And I like stories like that. And people are, I would say the tale of two uncles. I have my dad's family's from Greece. I have like my Uncle Pete was in Brooklyn, owned a diner, a Greek guy that owned the diner in Brooklyn. But you never heard of that. And Uncle Pete was always like, Chris, you have to be there and watch the people and watch the register. You have to open and close and be in the kitchen and do all that stuff, And then that was Uncle Pete. Uncle John in California was smoking a cigar on his yacht and saying, don't listen to your Uncle Pete. You buy franchise and then you let everybody do the work. So the tale of two uncles, two different stories. Who's right? They're both right. It's just a different way. But I would say, look, you go to eat at Bobby Flay's restaurant. He's not there cooking.
He's happier. That's what matters, not who's right.
Maybe they're both happy, So it's like, it's that. But the thing is asking people. And one of the first things you're asking business owners is, what do you want? What do you want your day to look like? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your job to be in all this? And for them to, wow. To them, it's so funny that you ask someone such a simple question and you're like, well, I never considered those things. Of course not, because you're operating reactively. And then we start a business because we're passionate about something. It's like, wow, man, I'm going to start this business. We have this vision, and we started. Then all of a sudden, now we're dealing with taxes and bookkeeping and putting out fires and all these things we don't want to do. We find ourselves in a position doing things we don't want to do. And that's kind of like the sweet spot. I get business owners that are at that level, like, hey, I'm successdon't like my life anymore. I don't like my business anymore. What can I do? And some of them get it. And some of them are like, oh, I don't know if this ever happens to you, Jimmy, talking to business owners. You do a consultation, you propose them a plan. Oh, no, that's not how we do things here. No, we don't do things like that.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
like, I know it's not what you do. Did you come here? Look, this, and quite often you said it's the leadership. So, hey, guess what? I figured you're not great with people. You're great at visions and operations. So, but by the way, you've got a staff member that's great with people, and I think you can create an opportunity for them. So
everybody in the right seats.
Do you want to take that leap? That's the question. And we know, coming from, coming from the world that we come from, where, I've been a team leader for offices where everyone stayed out of the way and let me do the thing. Right. And then I've been a team leader for offices where people
have to empower your people.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what kind of environment do you work under best? It's like, what quarterback works with what coach the best, so it's.
You know what? I got to give a huge shout out right now, because I can literally trace so many of the things that we just talked about and that we know intuitively back to Gary Keller.
Yeah, isn't
Okay.
it?
It's amazing because even that model that we just described with the restaurant, that's a Keller Williams model, right? Like so many things that man, I will always be so grateful.
And he did it. He was one of the first. He did it. He's like, "What's wrong with my company?" And he hired Bain Henyon from corporate consulting. Corporate consulting kind of does all these things. So yeah, he spent millions of dollars on putting together. That's actually what inspired me to kind of further my education on this stuff, on organizational change and leadership and all these things, and putting together and saying, how can this other industries need this stuff? And I mean, KW is one of the first real estate companies to instill these mechanisms into their systems.
But if you think about it, it's all empowerment, right? You're really empowering everybody to feel like they have a stake, they have a say, they get to be creative, even down to the ALC, which is called the Agent Leadership
Council. Yeah.
All these different things, So yeah, huge shout out. So let me ask you this.
Tell me.
What is your greatest challenge that you had to overcome in order to be living in this space right now where you're doing what you want, you're following the joy, you follow the energy, you're helping people? What did you have to overcome to get here?
That sometimes things aren't always what they seem when you involve other people. So, I mean, I've got, I was parts of things that sounded really great, and we're going to take all these people with us. And then there's a term that somebody once told me called creating a truth. I just found it misleading. So having to work with other people that you think you're in alignment with your vision, and realizing maybe we're not in alignment. And it's I'm a bridge burner in that way. So there's a lot of things that I said no to that would have been very financially lucrative to me, but I wouldn't have felt comfortable with those decisions because it's just I was either I was not delivering on promises I had to other people and things, but it's really that it's kind of getting to a certain point where things aren't what they seem to be anymore. And you're doing it, you're all about, adding value to people and looking out for your people and love. Then all of a sudden it becomes a certain point where it becomes shoveling money into your bank account at the expense of being dishonest with people that you care about. And that's probably the biggest challenge. And these words have been fired in my direction. Shut your mouth, and shut your mouth and just take the opportunity and take the money and, just keep quiet. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. So,
that boils down to, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. That boils down to you are not in a place yet where you would have those difficult conversations up front and then rehabbing them. This is why, like, when you're involved in any business, weekly meetings, making sure, and I'm not talking wasting time meetings, like going through the most important things, making sure the vision is articulated every single time, and all the things, right? Our values and why we're doing this, the core focus at the center of it. And then you don't even need to have these big, huge, difficult conversations because you've made sure we're all in alignment and we're all that. So I imagine that you learned that quickly going through that.
Yeah, it's people disappointing you, and I have a people bias, and I love everybody. I'm the eternal optimist, and people always used to tell me, you're so good. If you were just a little bit more shrewd, a little bit more, greedy, distrusting, you'd really. I'm like, no. But yeah, it's people over and over disappointed me. But now I'm in a place where, I always say I have an expression where I'm ready for anything, but I expect nothing. So it's like people they won't disappoint me. They'll surprise me either way. So somebody, like, oh wow, I'm real surprised that this went great, and I'm surprised that this didn't go great. But there's nothing new under the sun these days. So now I don't put all my stock in those things, and I'm aware that it's there.
So based on this conversation, I can tell you we're so similar in so many ways. And one of the ways, and I had a coach, David Meltzer. I don't know if you ever heard of David Meltzer. He's an amazing coach, but he's David Meltzer.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever saw the movie Jerry Maguire,
for sure.
David Meltzer was the owner of the sports agency that Jerry Maguire took down. So he became a coach through that process, through what he learned, and he became very spiritual. But anyway, so
Awesome.
we're, in a coaching session, he literally was like, Jen, you're a giver. He's like, but your problem is that you just give and you don't receive. He said, not only do you need to be open to receive, but you need to be open to receive more,
Yeah.
because you cannot give in a healthy way. You cannot give from a place of gratitude, space, like it's always going to have scarcity and a little bit of fear involved if you are not whole. So you have to learn. So yeah, so it's not a matter of like, so what's in it for me, right?
Yeah.
Or like, where's mine? Give me mines.
Exactly.
It's really just being clear with, okay, this situation that I am about to enter into, what am I going to get out of it? Am I going to be, doing things that I enjoy and that I love and that are aligned with my vision and my values?
Mm.
That's part of it, right? Being able to make sure that in this scenario, you're going to be receiving the things that make you feel good. And then just in general, being in a position of receiving. I
Did you
think
read
it's
the Did you read The Go-Giver? Remember that parable? It's like the 5 laws of stratospheric success. The last law is being open to receive. And
yes.
I think a
We
lot of us.
forget.
I mean, I had a single mom. She was a social worker. I mean, we grew up we grew up. We didn't have any money. I wore
Right.
hand-me-down clothes.
Yeah, yeah,
We were on
same. Yeah.
welfare, and kind of had this Robin Hood mentality that and it's
No.
that just give of yourself, and it was kind of almost evil to be. You made this distinction. It was almost evil to accumulate wealth. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and that's one of the things actually. Tony Robbins and Unleash Your Power Within, we said, which parents' love do you crave the most? And you're going to subconsciously move in the direction of the values of that person, whether you agree with them or in alignment with them or not. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting, because then you have this inner battle. But just to realize that you're not open to receive, or don't think that you're worth it. And I think even as a coach or a speaker, or when I launched a company, I'm like, how am I gonna run this company? How am I gonna recruit and train and develop people that are light years ahead of me in success? I mean, my best year as a real estate salesperson was 28 transactions, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah,
But now I'm bringing on people that are doing 50, 100,
right.
and I have to help them get better. How am I going to do that? So there's that degree of imposter syndrome. And when you go on your own, and I remember I was going around speaking for free everywhere, and now I have an agent. I love agents. And one of the things I realized about myself is that I'm not a good salesperson for myself.
Right.
So now I have an agent, and man, she gets me a ton of money, and and she's like, nope, you're too cheap. You're too cheap. You're too cheap. And then like, she gets it. And she's like, even like, I did a thing for $3,500, and she's like, I got you 3,800 for this. I hope that's, you're okay with that. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then the people gladly pay it. And you're like, oh man, I'm like, really, this is worth it for people. And it's kind of,
we forget our value. We forget our worth.
It's a tough thing. You never pay attention to it. You forget it, or never realize it, or never pay attention to it. Or sometimes it feels guilty. You feel there's a little bit of guilt of doing something and saying, I can't believe I get paid to do this. And
it's all an energy exchange. And I can tell how much you give in, how much you give, how much you pour into people. And it's
I can't not do it. It's
but we have no business doing it from an empty cup or
that's right. That's right.
We're not even doing them any, like we have to put ourselves first. We have to take care of ourselves in order to truly be able to.
That's right.
To give. So if people want to coach with you, want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
You could just Google me, but I have chrisabazis.com is like my link tree, my chrisabazis.com. And then there's, my websites, and, they could set up a 30-minute strategy session, and I talk to people. My process is I kind of talk to people, figure out if I can help them close the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And a lot of times it's just me talking to them and saying, you're not ready for this now, or I've got somebody else you can talk to. Like, right. I get a lot of people that need therapy, or I don't deal a lot with like the past stuff. And that's like, maybe that's something that you do, or like people sending people over to kind of do that life work. Yeah. And, I want to talk about the future, and I'm saying, where are you at? Can I, and I look at what you've got going on. Like Neo looks at the matrix and kind of diagnose some stuff and help you put those things together. So, but yeah, that's the best way. I mean, I'm all over social media, and it's actually, I don't have people managing my stuff. I respond to people myself. I don't use chatbots. I just
They don't work anymore.
everything. I'm there. It's people are always surprised. I don't know if this happens to you. And like people are surprised you talk to them or you get on a Zoom. And they're like, "You're the guy from the video," or
Right.
"Oh, it's actually I didn't realize I was going to be talking to you." And I'm like, "Well, why not? You watch the
Yeah.
video I did. It's me. That's me talking to you. It's not. Oh, I thought it was somebody. I thought it was some VA chatting me up." And I'm like, "No. No, I've created a world where I'm not that busy like that, but I could be at the beach drinking a margarita, kind of talking to somebody. It's pretty cool. But that's probably the easiest way you could find me. Just
And what's next? What's next for you?
I'm actively investing in real estate. I got into the short-term market. So I'm building up my passive income so that I really don't have to rely on active income. And I'm almost there. And so I've got that going on, and I'm making some pretty good affiliate agreements with people, because I find out when you talk from the stage and a lot of people want to know what you're up to, you could generate a lot of stuff that way. But yeah, I think what's next is in my coaching world is I'm going to start doing live events, my own live events again. So putting together masterminds of like-minded people and things like that. I work with another company that does these 5 masterminds every year, and I take coaching clients from them, and they've got a nice group over there, and I like what they've got going on. And I think putting something together like that with a network of other coaches. So I think that's kind of the next step, is really creating this network of other coaches, other people that can add value. And I've got clients that want to kind of get into coaching and speaking. So we're making that. So creating a community where we can do live events and give someone a microphone and a stage to share their story and add value to people and see what goes on from there, helping them create programs to affect people. Because I think that's the biggest thing to be able to have an impact is you could be a real estate salesperson and you could help however many people you buy and sell houses with every year, or you can kind of recruit and develop real estate salespeople and help thousands of people every year indirectly. Yep. And so that's kind of now what I'm thinking with, let's help business owners go to that next level for them, creating value to their communities and to their employees and the such. So that's in the cards for me. It's just, I'm a huge procrastinator, and I lean into that. I accept it. And I've got a lot of things. I have a problem with focus. Just kind of like a lot of us, I'm sure. It's like I get all these things and just kind of all these ideas, and which ones am I taking action on next, and just prioritizing and moving the ball forward. But all these things are up in the air.
I love it. Your energy is amazing. I think you're on to great things. I'm all in on any of those collaboration things.
Yeah, we got to do something. And that's another thing in my life. We got to do something. Let's do something. We'll do something together.
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on Soulful Prosperity.
Bye.